Council has received a petition in excess of 1,500 signatures about the Cabinet Grenfell Tower and regeneration. Eve Wedderburn wishes to speak for the petitioners. I now call upon her to address the Council.
Before I begin my address, I'd like to say that the petition is supported and presented by Friends of North Kensington Library, standing shoulder to shoulder with the other community-led campaigns, One Voice Community Collective, the Save the Earls Court Supporters Club, the Save Our Silchester campaign, Westway 23, Save Warnington College, This is North Kensington blog, Friends of the Kensington Odeon, RAP 23 and the Grenfell Action Group. Cabinet members, since 2010, I am here to deliver a message from North Kensington. We do not recognise your right to govern our community. Where to start with a council whose overblown ego is embodied in the very building that is the result of a criminal act, where the presence of a public to whom you are answerable is merely gestured towards. That public gallery is smaller and significantly less plush than the mayoral apartment in this building. And most of our supporters right now are sitting in the hall that you dare not share with them because you're afraid of being shouted at. We fear the loss of our homes, our public spaces, our community. We fear your decant policy that makes us homeless. We fear compulsory purchase orders that buy our houses from us and propose to sell them back at double the price. We fear your cosy relationships with developers to whom you sell the ground from under us. We fear being burned to death in our homes and abandoned by those whom we have paid to look after us. You fear being shouted at. You routinely dismiss our petitions. Councillors have been heard stating that one handwritten letter has more value to this council than any petition. If that is your view, it is incompatible with the democratic representation with which you are charged, and I invite you, councillors of the Cabinet, to picture now the writing on the wall. Stand down. If you think you deserve a mandate from the community, they will re-elect you. Ironically, Nick Paget-Brown asserted that self-governance in North Kensington would lead to chaos mere weeks before he presided over the complete breakdown of the social contract in our area. Councillor, your gesture resignation as leader, your mealy-mouthed sorry not sorry statement indicts the whole of your leadership. Stand down. But Paget-Brown's views are echoed elsewhere. Ahern has stated to the Planning Committee that the people should not be trusted with decisions. Councillor, the gross incompetence of your planning department to oversee basic safety standards in your own buildings, as well as your revolting attitude to those whom you serve, means you should not be trusted with councillorship. Stand down. Elsewhere, Paget-Brown's colleagues share his view that the main problem arising from the massive failure of statutory services to get a grip on this crisis is one of perception. Coleridge only resigned as chair of the Kensington Foundation because of the problem of perception. No, councillor, the foundation is set to handle the majority of donations for the fire disaster that you have presided over as Cabinet member for housing. The problem here is not perception, but your actual culpability for an actual crisis, which makes you unsuitable for any ongoing role in the rebuild of our community. Stand down. Those among you who think the challenge of this crisis lies in public perception, stand down. Those of you who agree with Councillor Wheel that your role here is to hear but not listen, stand down. Those of you who have done the dirty work of developers, stand down. This means you, Councillor Moylan, wined and dined by Minerva's representatives, Terrapin, and coincidentally denouncing the Kensington Odeon building, which they subsequently bought and demolished. Or you, Councillor Fielding Mellon, handing over public buildings to private schools that you plan to send your own children to. Stand down. Stand down if you think that stockpiling huge reserves, Councillor Lightfoot, while cutting down on estates, facilities and services, Councillor Warwick, is in any way necessary in this richest of boroughs. Stand down if you think that cutting corners has nothing to do with community safety, Councillor Hargreaves. Stand down if you cannot understand that we protest your actions, not because we enjoy the protest, because of tiny things, Councillor Fawkes, like the effects of your decisions on our lives. Fawkes' response on the morning of the fire to hearing a survivor's account of barely escaping with his life from a building he had been warning the council about for years was to accuse him of political point scoring. Councillor, if you think the trauma of Grenfell Tower is a political point, stand down. All of you who regard residents raising concerns about fire safety as a political point scoring, stand down. This includes you, Councillor Campbell, who ignored residents' concerns back in 2010 about building directly in the emergency services access to Grenfell Tower. Need I remind you that fire crews had to run through several streets before tackling the blaze? You are discredited before you even begin, and before we look at your record of dismantling children's and youth services, a process continued with glee by you, Councillor Will. It will not take a generation for this council to heal the breach with the community. It will take regime change. So stand down. Drop the plans this Cabinet have made for the seizure, demolition and sale of our public assets, including estates. End the stitched-up Cabinet system and return to the more democratic committee system. Support communities to build their own neighbourhood plans, like those developed by the St Quentins and Earls Court neighbourhoods. There is legislation in the 2011 Localism Act for communities to become the authors of their own futures, and the one uncontestable truth that has arisen in the wake of this crisis in North Kensington is that North Kensington is a community more than capable of looking after its own. The value you are so determined to sell to the highest bidder has been created by our energy, our diversity and our creativity. So hand over the design and planning of the neighbourhoods that rightfully belong to us, because this village no longer recognises the legitimacy of your estate.